Welcome to Duck Season Somewhere podcast. This episode is brought to you by the following sponsors. For 365 days a year, it's duck season somewhere at Ramsey Russell's GetDucks.com. The world of duck hunting is way bigger than our backyard. The very best duck hunts in Argentina and Mexico are only the beginning. We specialize exclusively in 6 continents worth of proven waterfowl hunting adventures. Whether you're looking for a unicorn species or a fun trigger pulling vacation of epic proportion, we've got the right hunt dialed in. Real duck hunts and authentic experiences for serious duck hunters. As a genuine American duck hunter myself, I know the difference. Founded in 2003, GetDucks.com is not just what we do, it's all we do. I've been there personally many times. Our reputation speaks for itself. Anita and I are personally available to assist before, during, and after your trip because you deserve nothing less. Looking for something closer to home? The next great hunt is closer than you think. Contact proven operators throughout the U.S. and Canada at our U.S. hunt list. Explore worldwide duck hunting at GetDucks.com. All package details, photos, videos, stories, and thousands of client testimonials right there at your fingertips. GetDucks.com. Ball Shot Shell's copper-plated bismuth tin alloy is the good old days again. Steel shots come a long way in the past 30 years, but will never, ever be like good old-fashioned lead. No way. Say goodbye to all the gimmicky, high recoil, compensation, science, and marketing hype, and hello to superior performance. Know your pattern, take ethical shots, make clean kills. That is the boss way. The good old days are now. It really is duck season somewhere for 365 days per year. Duck season somewhere takes me year-round to worldwide destinations where I visit with the most interesting people. I'm your host, Ramsey Russell. Join me here to listen to those conversations.
Man, what a beautiful day it is today. It's middle of April, sun shining. It's 50 degrees in the state of Mississippi. It's just a beautiful, beautiful spring day. We've been sheltered in place for 2 months, starting to get antsy. I'm visiting today with my friend Terry Denmon from Mojo Outdoors. How are you, Terry?
I am great today, Ramsey. And yourself?
I'm fine. What's the weather like over in Monroe? Nice, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's great over here. I think it was 39 degrees at first light this morning. It's up to about 50-something now, so it's kind of cool for this time of year. I don't think it's doing the turkey hunting a whole lot of good, but it makes the weather awful pleasant.
Yes, sir. Tell me, are you getting antsy with this shelter in place order, or just having to stay at home like the rest of the world?
Well, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I was supposed to go to South Texas, go turkey hunting. Mike Morgan and I hunted this same place last year, and I killed 4 turkeys on the first day. And I was really looking forward to that. And then, Texas shut their border with Louisiana, and I couldn't get there. Well, Team Mojo, which is Kyle and Nate and Jared and, all those guys, they were going, kind of work their way north. They're going to be North Texas next, and they're going to go to Turkey Fest that we do every year in Clay County, Henrietta, Texas. Then they were going to a place Kyle's got up in Oklahoma, and then they were going to leave there and go to with our buddy Romo up in northern Kansas, and all 3 of those states shut their border to Louisiana, and it really don't have anything to do with the part of Louisiana I'm in. I'm in rural North Louisiana, but New Orleans was a hot spot, and so I guess they just had to shut everybody from Louisiana out. So I've been here for since late February, and we're middle of April now. That's probably the longest I've been here since I've been in the TV business.
My goodness, that's how you travel as much as I do, Terry. A lot of years you hunt and you go and see a bunch of things. Are you starting to get stir crazy yet, or are you glad for the break?
Well, I was glad for the break, believe it or not, and it kind of brings up an interesting story. I was at a duck lodge in Mexico in February, and when I pulled up, they picked me up at the airport in Brownsville, Texas, and when I pulled up from the lodge and got out of the van, this guy walked over to me, and introduced himself and said, I'm here because of you. He had a whole group of people there with him. And that always makes me a little nervous. I think, well, I hope the hunt comes out good. But anyway, every night in the lodge, that guy would come over and talk to me, and he says, you love doing what you're doing? And actually the answer is yes, I do love what I'm doing. I said, no, I hate it. I said, but after I've been home about 10 days, I'm ready to go again. So, it's just, the travel, like you and I travel, Ramsey, it's not the same as being a tourist traveling. There's so much pressure and so many hours that, it's so demanding and so strenuous, and so it'll wear you down. But, if I stay home about 10 days, I'm ready to go again.
Well, that's the way I describe it. But I will say, honestly, I love what I do. I love everything about what I do. But I could not have said this late February, but around second week of March, I just realized I had started to burn out. Not from duck hunting. Oh, Lord, I'll never burn out from that. Just from the travel. To get so many places, to get down to Mexico, if you start adding up all the cumulative hours that you're in an airport and packing and under the gun and doing this and flying, it just cumulatively, it's stressful. Just being away from your normal routine.
Just to go duck hunting is one thing. People like you and I could never get tired of that. But to go hunting when the pressure's on you to accomplish something, that makes it a whole new world. And, I have all kind of people, and I'm sure you do too, that tell me, say, I want to do what you want to do. I said, well, you might all think about that again. And then always that's so green on the other side of the fence, and it's because of the pressure to accomplish something. And, but,
always worry.
You always love
worry.
that.
That's right. I always worry about my clients. I always, hope it's going to be like they want it to be, and it is pressure. It is stress, but it's good stress. I'm not complaining. It's just, but I realize, the entire world stopped spinning, and whether I like it or not, I had to stop spinning with it too, and it really gave me a break to go back and examine things around the house that have been neglected, examine things in my business that just, I hadn't had time to pay attention to. And man, I look at it like it's just giving me an opportunity to sort through all my tool sheds and to rest up and get ready for next planting season. That's the way I'm looking at it. I'm really kind of embracing it as an opportunity. But now I ain't gonna lie to you, 2 months into this thing, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to go pack my bags and go to duck season somewhere. I'd be lying. I'd be dying if I'm lying. I'm ready to go. Starting to get stir crazy, Terry.
Well, you and I were lining up to go to Argentina.
I know.
Now that's a great uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we'll get to Argentina this year or not. So, we have to start thinking about, well, if we can't get there this year, we'll get there, next year. But, you and I live in the deep South, and, once you get to, say, late May or early June, the heat becomes a factor. Let's call it a factor. The heat becomes a factor all the way through the month of August and on into September. And so our relief for people like me and you has been go to south of the equator, where it's wintertime and our summertime, and it doesn't look like maybe we're gonna get to do that this year.
No, we're that's kept us pretty darn busy. Is because the whole entire world is sheltered in place. All international borders are sealed, coming and going. At least through May, we've been having to defer a lot of our clients. We spent the first few weeks putting together contingency plans. We've got a lot of our clients deferred to the following year, and that's keeping us kind of busy right now. And I will say, as summer's approaching, it's been a long, long time since I spent the entirety of a Mississippi summer in Mississippi. Not the advantage of duck season somewhere is you're always in duck season. And I like that. I like that duck season weather. But Terry, what is are you at the office today? What's going on in the world of Mojo with this Wuhan flu going around? What's that done for y'all?
Well, as you know, Ramsey, I got more than one business. I have an engineering business, and I have the Mojo business, and they're radically different types of businesses. And I only bring up the engineering business because under the lockdown orders that we are under in the state of Louisiana, as issued by the governor, some businesses are called essential, and they're not forced into the lockdown. And my engineering business is that way. Mojo is not considered essential. You know, who would think that making duck decoy wouldn't be at the top of the list? I don't know I don't know what their thought process was. I don't know what they were thinking when they thought that. But nevertheless, it's not considered an essential business, so we're forced to go into the lockdown mode. Now, the lockdown mode does not require that you close your business, and we certainly have not. It requires that you minimize your business and you lock the doors to the public. And so that's what we've done. But we have everybody that can is working from home. We haven't laid off anybody, and we're not going to unless we just run out of money, which I don't expect to happen. But, you know, we're carrying on business out there, but we're carrying it on in totally different ways. You know, so we have different people that come in on different days. And, you know, this virus supposedly started in China, and that's where most of our products come from. And so you couple the virus with the typical China New Year, and they shut down for about 2 or 3 weeks during China New Year anyway, you know, and it's making our arrival of products delayed. And naturally, that's causing us a problem. It will be a problem through the year. It'll be a problem for almost every vendor that's making their product anywhere offshore. It don't just have to be China, anywhere offshore. You know, a lot of people make them in Mexico. The Mexico border shut down also. And right. So we're getting product in, and we won't get in all the product that we had hoped to do. But, you know, you have the issue of the retailers in many states are closed. And so most of the sales are going to online sales. And and you know, thank God for online sales. And even though I love to go on
and I hope it encourages anybody listening that tomorrow's going to come. I know it, you know it, they know it. Tomorrow's going to come. Sun's going to rise. Duck season. You know, it's coming somewhere. And I'm encouraged by the fact that we are receiving a fairly normal amount of phone calls right now from people that are planning to go to Mexico this spring, that are planning to go to Argentina in 2021, that are asking about trips around the world because I guess like myself, they're cooped up and ready to go do something. And so I'm encouraged. It really, I tell you, my fingers are crossed this thing gets off the ground and get rolling. But 2020, boy, sure came to a screeching halt. I mean, like a stick in the spoke, and it didn't start off crazy. You know, Terry, the last time I remember seeing you, we were talking about doing some of these trips together. Was that the celebration of life for our friend, the late Mike Morgan? And, you know, that was a terrible way to kick off the year anyway.
It was, you know, that was a total tragedy and a loss. You know, a personal loss to me and you, but it was a loss to the outdoor industry. You know, Mike was a true pioneer in video and hunts and fishing trips too. And, you know, he started, you know, when there was hardly no, you know, outdoor TV. And, you know, they started making videos. You know, first they were making VHS type videos, and then they were making DVDs, but I think he told me one time that they made like 80 titles in the video business. You know, you buy them, rent them, whatever, video business, and then they transitioned from that into outdoor TV. And so, you know, he's been around about as long as that industry has been around. He was a wealth of knowledge and a great guy.
No, it's crazy to me how, you know, history's kind of written hindsight 2020. And if you witness it, like Forrest Gump, you don't realize you're kind of walking through that. You see what I'm saying? And I can remember, I was 19 years old, and a new archery store in the Jackson metropolitan area had opened up. And back in those days, if you were a bow hunter, you just went somewhere out to BFE, middle of nowhere, and walked into somebody's shop or somebody's little tool shed and bought your archery equipment, tuned in, and all of a sudden this new place opened up. And that's where I met Mike Morgan, is Indian archery back in the day. And I just, the energy that's coming through there, what they were bringing, what they were doing, and my earliest memories of Mike Morgan, I was just a kid. Where Mike always behind the work counter, always glad to see you, always working. And the people that were coming in and out of there to carry, the people that went on to become big column manufacturers like Primos, or big camo titans like Mossy Oak, I met right there in that little shop. And it started me kind of sort of down a path, because Mike always had a story. He was a storyteller of epic proportion. And from a 19-year-old that hadn't hardly been out of his home county at the time, to listen to him, you know, I just, as I imagine Mike, think back to those days, every memory I have of Mike is him doing something with his hands, tuning bows or fixing arrows or fletching arrows, or later in life, especially doing the cameras and tuning and focusing and headphones and getting everything mic'd up and everything done. That was just, he was always that perpetual tinker, but the whole time he was doing it behind that archery store, he'd always tell these stories. And it just absolutely lit a fuse. I wanted to travel. I wanted to experience things like that. And I didn't know it then, but I can look back and see it now. How Mike's storytelling and that archery store, and it's funny you bring up talking about the videos, because I can remember when he and his partner started video and at archery hunts, archery deer hunts especially. And I can remember those days, those big cameras and all that kind of stuff. And you know, that's back in the day that you had those great big, kind of like cassettes you put into DVD players, you know, or
it was cassettes.
It was cassettes.
You had a second part of the camera that you strapped around you and put a cassette into.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but he was a pioneer. He really pioneered doing that, didn't he?
He absolutely did. Yeah, he absolutely did. And you know, Mike loved filming, and you know, Mike filmed our shows. I used to film shows with him back in the Hunting Across America days.
I was going to ask how y'all met, Terry. How did y'all end up meeting?
Well, the very first SHOT Show, and most everybody that's listening to this will know what the SHOT Show is: shooting, hunting, outdoor sports. You know, it's one of the largest trade shows in the U.S. today. And this particular, the first one I ever go to was in New Orleans. And we didn't even have a booth. We would Avery let us share part of their booth, and cause we didn't have very many products. We didn't have 2 or 3 products, and so me and my partner Murray Crow was in New Orleans, you know, attending to this at SHOT Show, and these 2 guys woke up and Murray starts talking to them. I don't know who they are, you know, and so we only had 2 or 3 of the brand new Mojo mallards. That's when we molded our own decoy body with the breast peg and all that. Before then, everybody that was making those devices, you know, put motors in the existing decoy bodies. And so we were the first one that molded a decoy body just for doing that in the duck in the landed position, you know. So I see Murray come over. Well, I think Murray came over and asked me, he said, look, you know, these guys won't, you know, need a decoy. I'm thinking about giving them one of ours. Well, who are they? And he said, well, they've got that Hunting Across America show, and they need a duck decoy. And so I didn't know who they were, and I didn't have outdoor TV at that time. If I had it, I didn't know I had it, and I didn't know who they were. And so we gave them one of the very few. We probably didn't have 5. We gave them one of the very few, and there was a couple of weeks of duck season left, and I wish Mike was here to tell this story himself, but what happened is they hunted this little lake up above Greenwood, 6 Mile Lake. You'd probably know where it was.
Oh, yeah.
They had a camp on the banks of it, and the upper part of it was huge flooded cypress trees, and they had hunted it so long that no matter what the wind was, the weather conditions, this, that, other, they knew where to go to. And so they would always kill more ducks than anybody on that lake. And then all of a sudden somebody was kicking them down the road. And so one day they said, let's go down and see what that guy's doing. They go down, well, he had a Mojo. And so they had to have a mojo. So they come to the SHOT Show, probably not for that reason. They probably would have come to the SHOT Show anyway, but that was their occasion to get themselves a mojo and get back in the game, and that's how I met Mike Morgan.
And the rest became history.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And
I had fallen out with Mike. Not fallen out, but I just fallen out of touch with. I just got busy going to school, going to college, and doing things. And it's like it's a small world. I mean, I'm right here, and I think he lived probably 10 miles from where I'm standing right now. And you always kind of kept up. You always knew people, and so I kind of sort of was aware. I couldn't afford cable TV back when I was in college, but I was aware of hunting across America, a lot that he had become involved in, and how he had evolved, but I hadn't seen him in forever. And I always think of birds of a feather flocking together, because how I met you, Terry, and how we became friends back when was via Mike Morgan, and I just never will forget. I remember meeting you the first time and shaking your hand is Ducks Unlimited had organized a waterfowl hunting show or something down around Dallas, Texas. And
Grapevine, Texas.
That's right, Grapevine, Texas. And I remember y'all's big travel van was across from us, and Mike came over and hadn't changed a bit. The cowboy hat, the big cowboy hat he wore, and everything else, and we called up, talked a little bit. He introduced me to you, and then life got big. That had been 10, 15 years maybe since I'd seen him and talked to him, and then break. The first year we exhibited at Dallas Safari Club, and that was just a hectic weekend anyway. Just wow, that was incredible. And Mike showed up out of the blue, and you came up and called up with him. And we met, and we talked, and we hatched a plan to go to Argentina for the first time. And I believe that year you and he and I went, and Annette went to La Paz. That on one hand, it seems like yesterday. On the other hand, it seems like a lifetime ago that we all went down and hunted together in Argentina the first time. That was a good trip. Turned into a good show.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And, Mike had mentioned to me before I met you, Ramsey, a couple of times, said, look, this guy lives not very far from me that I know, so he books these hunts all around the world, and you had apparently told Mike before I met you that, you'd kind of like to work with us. So about the second or third time Mike tells me, I said, well, okay, we'll go hook up with him and let's see what he's got to offer. And the rest is pretty much history.
Mike, I got to tell the story because, I got a face for radio and an accent for Andy Griffith's show. That's the first time hunting with y'all that somebody stuck a big old camera in my face. And I was just a little I guess like a lot of people, I see a lot of people, man, you can break out an iPhone video and people start acting different, and it's just human nature, I guess, but I never will forget hunting that morning, and he said, all right, Ramsey, y'all get over here. I want you and Terry to talk about this duck, talk about this, talk about that. And I was kind of, positioning myself. He said, no, I need you to square up. And I kind of positioned myself, no, I need you to square up. And I said, well, Mike, I want to show my good side. He said, well, I ain't going to show the back of your head. It'll make lousy TV, Ramsey. Just look at the camera and talk. And that was just Mike. He was all business all the time and knew and he knew what we needed to do. And slowly but surely, I guess I got comfortable enough in front of the camera talking to him. But that was a pretty darn fun hunt we went on that time. I got to know you pretty good, and I got to know Mike better. And where did we go next? Peru? Was that the next big hunt we did? I
don't know if Peru was the next one or not, but Peru was, early on in mine and your professional relationship. And, before you get into the Peru thing, people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they do you too, what's your favorite type of hunt, and I don't have one of those. Just anything suits me fine, but if they ever get around to ask me, where's the most interesting place you ever went, I said, Peru. That's the most interesting place I've ever been in my life.
Well, that is a very interesting place. I had been there before, and Peru is still a very interesting place. We still go to Peru. We still send some people. Got probably, we got a couple dozen folks going this year that we're probably going to have to defer to next year. Peru locked down just like everybody else because of COVID. But, you go way up in the Andes Mountains and you spot, stalk, and hunt some very, very unique indigenous species that you're just not going to find anywhere else on Earth. Andean geese and crested ducks and puna teal and stuff like that. But then you jump down into the coastal area between the Atacama Desert and the Pacific Ocean, and you got that little rice belt, a little bitty valley of rice, and it's the highest density of cinnamon teal on Earth. And that's what we went for. And I do remember I think we made a 2-part series out of that.
We did, but you had so much interesting stuff. You had those human skeletons that's 3 or 4, 5, 6,000 years old. You had that old market, fresh market downtown. We went to 2 different ones of them, so that's something I had never seen before like that. They killed a cow in the alley right there and bled the blood out of it. Processed it, so you could buy half clean chickens with eggs still. I mean, I just had never seen anything like that.
No, it was totally different. It was
and they had fish head soup, fish eye soup. What was it? Put the fish head in the soup. I remember that.
Fish head soup.
Yeah,
I was talking about that last week.
Yeah, you and Mike Morgan ate it. I didn't eat any of it.
Well, Mike was my brother from a different mother when it comes to eating stuff. He told me on that trip we were eating fish head soup. I think we ate ours and liked it so well we ate yours in the nets because y'all wouldn't eat it. And I don't remember how I said it or what was said. And he said, "No, I don't eat anything blue." I said, "You mean blueberries?" He goes, No, I like blueberries. I said, "You mean blue cheese?" He goes, "No, I like blue cheese." He said, "I just don't eat blue food." And I guess I don't eat it, Terry, because I had never seen any blue food.
Yeah,
Mike and I would dive into anything and try it at least once.
You're right about that.
Well, that was the trip. I had been there before, and I'd been to that place before. And as we were right along the river, the Calcola River, I remember it being, is where I had hunted in the mountains, and that river ran for 1,000 miles, let's say, and went into the Pacific Ocean. And a year or so before we had come down there with Mojo, the translator and my host were explaining to us, they knew I was kind of into this kind of natural geography and the history and the culture and stuff like that. And they had talked about a lot of the pre-Incans being buried there in that Atacama Desert, which looked it's just a vast bunch of sand dunes and stuff, that part of it. And there was a big cave they called a Calcoa that served as an old ancient granary, but they started talking about people being buried there, and I said, "Really?" And they said, "Well, yeah, there's a bone." And the truck slowed down. I looked out, and there was a human femur just on top of the soil. Well, I remember when we came out from a great teal hunt that morning. It was a spectacular teal hunt. Mike wanted to stop and film you and I just doing some B-roll. I learned that word from y'all. Do some B-roll with the we're sitting on a high bluff, the river's down below us back. And as he's setting up the camera, Nate had just taken off way up behind him up that sand dune to go take some more B-roll, take some pictures of the landscape and all. And he come flying down the hill all excited. And I didn't know. And I think that's the first time I ever met Nate, was on that trip. And told us we had to come up there and see what he'd seen. And we trudged up there.
I thought he found Bigfoot or something. He was so excited.
I didn't know what he'd found, but I hoped it was worth it. Kind of a steep hike, sand, and we walked on up there and looked, and what he had found just over that hill up there was an ancient graveyard that had been dug up. And it was weird just to, there must have been 100 graves dug up, and there were bones laying everywhere. And it's bizarre to have walked up and somebody had taken bits and pieces, a skull and bones, and they had fabricated a human skeleton out of just random bones. And it, to me, I just couldn't get my mind wrapped around. I mean, a bunch of high school kids, who would do this? And she had explained that our translator had explained that those had probably been dug up hundreds of years ago. Spanish conquistadors or something. Who put the skeleton together is anybody's guess, but obviously they'd been there sun bleached a long, long time. And it's just not every day you go duck hunting and come across something like this. It was a tad unsettling, you know. But I think she explained, you know, because those people were kind of poor. They were poor, you know. They weren't a wealthy culture. They were just simple people. And she explained to me, or explained to us, that a lot of those ancient chieftains would have would wear a feather robe, and that they were worth tens of thousands of dollars, which would be like, I guess, a Spanish conquistador, whomever hit the jackpot if you found one.
Yeah, she told me they'd be worth up to $50,000 US. And to give you some perspective, she says that the average person in Peru was making $500 a year. So if you living on $500 a year, you know, equivalent to U.S. dollars, and you could come up with $50,000,
that's like hitting the jackpot.
It is
a lifetime
national jackpot. Yeah. Yeah, well, very, very interesting. You know, if the video quality hadn't changed so much in the last 10 years, 15 years, and it changes pretty much every year, I'd air that show again. So it look like, you know, probably look like home movies today, but so the channels don't allow us to do that. But I wish I could. We have actually aired little bitty pieces of it, like on social media. It's extremely interesting.
No, that would be good. I'm gonna have to go dig around and find. I haven't seen that in a long time, and probably need to put it on my website, because you know it's still very interesting footage, and it's still a very interesting location. We have a lot of people, you know, and the people that go, they want to collect those species, but a lot of people that go to Peru really, as I talk to them, I realize they're wanting to go just for the experience and the adventure of it all. Now, you know, one thing when I think of Mike Morgan, I think of the time we went and hunted with Diego for the first time, and that was a fun trip. We were hunting way south of Buenos Aires at the time. But when I think of hunting with Mojo and Mike Morgan, I never will forget the first time we hunted at Diego's. We were running through the list of species we'd shot, and I said, I mentioned shoveler and this and Chilo. And whoa, Terry says, I did not shoot a shoveler. And at the time, Terry, I don't believe you would shoot a shoveler of any shape, form, or fashion.
It'd be a mistake if I did.
I like to think I changed you. I like to think I had that positive influence on your life and got you shooting shovels now.
I don't know if it's positive or not, but you have had that influence. Between you and Mike Morgan, y'all have diminished my character. So now I shoot spoonbills, and I kind of look around, make sure nobody's watching. And why I do that, I don't know. The camera's always running.
Well, besides shooting, besides eating anything, and up for an adventure of eating different foods, Mike would shoot shovels with me. We like to shoot them.
Well, y'all both from Mississippi. That explains it perfectly.
It may be. You know,
I'm from Louisiana. We shot mallards. You know.
The last time I hunted, the last time I talked to Mike, and it's just getting off the shoveler part for just a minute, but I'll never forget that I had just gotten back. I had just gotten back from Ontario, Canada, and I knew he was scheduled to go up there and film with y'all. And said a lot about Mike, the last conversation I've had, and I called him up and said, Mike, I'd like to record it for a podcast. And we talked a little bit about it, set a date, you know, whenever you're feeling better. And, but I said, Mike, you know, how you doing? And Oh man, he just described it as he woke up with a crick in his back. You know, that's just Mike. He just, oh yeah, and just like that, he changed the subject because he knew I was going to Utah. And he started talking about shooting shovelers. Y'all gonna shoot a bunch of shovelers out there. I know there's a bunch out there at times. So we started talking about shooting shovelers, and every time we talked about shooting shovelers, we'd end up talking about the time he and I went down to Texas together and filmed that episode. Spoon and Crockett episode on Mojo. That was a pretty popular episode for y'all, wasn't it?
Oh, it absolutely was, because a spoonbill is a shoveler, if you want to go by the better name. It is a kind of it's not kind of, it's a controversial species. I think most duck hunters shoot, shovelers, but they don't admit to it. It's kind of one of them things you okay to do it, but you just assume nobody else know that you do it, and of course, I'd have to give you total credit for this, but, shooting shovelers today is much more, shall we call it, acceptable than it was before, you came up with the idea of the Ramsey Russell. You individually made the shooting of shovelers or spoonbills an acceptable practice in the duck hunting world. So you deserve the full credit for that.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's good or bad. Here lies Ramsey Russell, inventor of the shoveler decoy with teeth.
Well, that's what I've been saying for years, and you and Mike Morgan, said I was wrong. So, and I don't know if I was right or wrong, but nevertheless, I don't know if history will give you credit for it or not, but history should.
Well, it brings up a good point, because we're talking about Mike Morgan, and it brings up a good point because, what I learned hunting with Mojo that I didn't, is what goes into making a television show. Duck hunting isn't always like you see on 22 minutes of hunting footage. There's 3 to 5 or 10 days sometimes on tough seasons that goes into making 22 minutes of high quality footage for television. And it looks like if you weren't a duck hunter and you watched an episode of TV, you'd think it was just, holy cow, it's like that every time. But it's not. There's a lot of time you spend in a duck blind not shooting. You know what I'm saying? Or waiting on the ducks to set up just right for the shot or something like that. And and what I've learned, Terry, and I know I've hunted with you enough that you agree that some days are just those days that you can do no wrong. The ducks do come in like that, and some days you don't fire a shot because it's just the way the duck guides are smiling at you. But a lot of days are just average days in the duck blind. It's not just fast and furious all the time. It's duck hunting. And one of my favorite quotes Mike would say is, sometimes chicken salad, sometimes chicken shit, but it's always chicken, and I like chicken. And that's what keeps me going. I do like chicken, and I'll take good with the bad and have a good time. But Mike would always say, we talk about shovelers, we talk about teal, we talk about mallard, we talk about any hunt we were going, whatever was coming in. I've said 1,000,000 times, my favorite duck's the next one of the decoys. Mike would say it, a duck is a duck is a duck is a duck. And that's just, I think it's a good way of looking at it like that. So a shoveler, there are places in this world that I've hunted. That shovelers are extremely uncommon. One of the last hunts Mike and I did together, we went up to Idaho and hunted with some friends there on the Snake River, and we shot widgeons, and we shot mallards, and we shot a few golden eyes. In fact, we'd gone up there because I'd heard I might could get a shot at shooting a bear's golden eye mixed in with those common golden eyes, and did get a shot at one. But it's to those guys, you start talking to Mike Klein up in that part of Idaho, to him a shoveler coming through the decoy would be a huge treat. It'd be a trophy because it's so uncommon. You get down here to parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and other parts of Utah, and other parts of the world, man, shovelers are just another duck that comes in. And it never ceases to amaze me that only in North America, right here in the U.S., are shovelers a joke, or a smiling mallard, or a Hollywood, or everywhere else in the world they're a prize trophy. They're just a duck. You know, I take that Spoonzilla over to Azerbaijan or to different parts of the world, and man, they like it because it's a shoveler decoy, but they don't understand the teeth. It flies right over their head because to them,
well, nobody understands the teeth.
No, well, it's a smiling mallard. You know,
a mallard don't have teeth. Nobody understands the teeth in the cartoon. It's a Ramsey Russell cartoon.
With those
Jason Chuley cartoon.
Jason Chuley. Other parts of the world will embrace a shoveler. In fact, over in Australia, and that's a hunt that I would like to do with Mojo. I'd like to go down and film with Glenn Fowler. And there's only certain places we could go in Australia at certain times that we could shoot a Australasian shoveler, is what they've got down there, not the northern shoveler. But they to them, it's one of their top prizes are those shovelers. Now we could go to New Zealand and shoot all we wanted to, but to those guys, shovelers are a pretty big deal. You know, they really like them a lot. I don't know why, but they do like them a lot.
Well, you know, Ramsey, I don't know, what makes people like this, but if it's something's rare in your part of the world, it becomes more desirable, and that's not really how the spoonbill, the shoveler, became undesirable in some places like Louisiana. I really can't I can't really explain the psych that caused that to happen, other than Louisiana was always a mallard state. There was mallards and there was other ducks, and people used to use those terms. We could only kill 4 of our 6 can be mallards, and so we got to kill 2 they call them old ducks. Got to kill 2 old ducks. So I just got passed on from granddad to son to grandson, and it became a psych around here. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with a shoveler duck. It's just, I don't know. I can't explain it past that point. But I'd kind of like to go back for a minute from something you said a couple of minutes ago about Mike Morgan talking about the ducks. A duck is a duck. I had the thought while you were saying that, and I'm saying this for your younger audience out there, or maybe younger in terms of how long they've been hunting, maybe not in terms of their age, but that's an indication from you and him both of people that have hunted long enough to understand that it's not necessarily about killing ducks, it's about having experience. So if you're in a duck blind with a friend, and you can talk in a duck blind, you can't talk hunting whitetails, things like that. You can talk all you want to in a duck blind, as long as the ducks aren't coming in. And so that's an indication to me of someone that's hunted long enough to enjoy the experience of duck hunting.
That's right, and that to me is anymore. I mean, I guess I have duck hunted so much, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Terry. It's just enjoy it for what it is, enjoy it for what it comes, and have a good time, because the whole point of this thing we do is to have fun. It's recreation, and it's
a sport. It's a sport. I think in the outdoor industry we get a little bit too overboard in order to justify our sport, to say it's all about the collecting of food, but it's not all about collecting the food. Now, I am very glad to see the entire industry put some emphasis on the fact that they convert their game into food. If not for themselves, like we do in South America, places like that, give them to the needy. You make some good use of it. But look, we got to accept it's a sport. That's what causes us to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go out there in the rain and do that. Because I could go to Brookshire's and buy some food. I couldn't do it at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I could buy some food. So we go out there for sport. But it is an honorable sport.
It is. It is, Terry, and it's so much more than just a trigger pulling, and it's hard. It's hard for a non-hunter or anti-hunter to really see that, But all of us hunters know that heck yeah, we're there to shoot ducks. We're not there just to watch the sunrise. I mean, we all like to shoot ducks, but it's the time we spend and the people we spend it with in the blind. I mean, you and I have had some great visits about stuff way off the charts of duck hunting. I mean, you and I, Mike and I, and anybody I've hunted with, we've talked about some great things in between the volleys. That's where real life happens, is in between the volleys. And to me,
absolutely,
you know, it seems like so much. One thing I've learned during my time at home with this COVID thing is how distracting real life can be. And I mean real life at home, real life at the office, real life at work. It's full of distraction now more than ever. And you know, and normally in a duck blind, it's less distracting. You know, it's like I think of my life as recently as 8 weeks ago, and it was just a flurry of activity. It was coming home for a few hours and packing and going again and going to a show and people coming up all day, and it's just busy. And in between all that, human contact and travel, the phone, which is, you know, you don't leave the office anymore like I used to back in the old days. It's just, I've got that phone in my pocket. It's always chirping and beeping and buzzing, and it's constant. It's just a constant distraction. But when I'm in the duck blind, it's not that. It's just me and my buddies and my dog and the ducks coming in, and in between the volley, the talks and the cup of coffee and talking about life and the whole process. It is being able to step away from the hecticness of just real life into the duck blind, which is real living. And that's the way I look at it.
That's exactly right. You know, if you have to kill ducks every day, then probably this is not your sport. Because I get asked a lot of questions, and I'm sure you do too. And I do quite a number of interviews on decoying ducks because I'm in the decoy business, and what you can do, and you know, dealing with fresh ducks and stale ducks, and you know, and the different techniques you've used that. And my ending statement always is, and there's just some days them ducks not going to let you kill them. They're just not going to do it, you know. But you know, you can have just as much fun on that day as you can on the other one, even though you don't have the same feeling of success that you had on the other. You still have as much fun.
No, you know, but I like that. I mean, I feel like I have to earn every single duck anymore, especially down here in the deep south. It's nothing easy, you know, and it's just that process that I appreciate. You know, one more Mike story. We had gone down to Texas. I'm getting back to that Spoon and Crockett episode. We had gone down to Texas to hunt with the late J.J. Kent. And right there in that part of northern Texas along the Red River, the hunting can be incredible. It still is. And man, we had gone out and one hunt we'd hunted the river, and we'd shot mallards and green wings. One hunt we'd done in the fields, we shot pintails, and we were chipping along. It wasn't just fast and furious, but it was good, solid duck hunting. And I never will forget, we'd hunted the river, and like we were sitting on this little shelf, and the ducks were coming in below us. But to get to that shelf, we had to come in down off the high bank. And so the decoys below, to pick up decoys, we had to go down this old cattle trail, pretty straight cattle trail, and pick up those decoys and haul them up, same way we put them down that morning. And as we all started going down to start picking up decoys, notice there's a piece of barbed wire. It's like the bank had fallen in and stretched that barbed wire tight across that trail. And if you weren't paying attention, it'd trip you. I mean, you had to be careful. And we all talked about it, telling everybody, be careful, be careful, be careful. Yeah. Well, you know, you're sitting there thinking, you're not paying attention. And I'd stopped at the top and dropped off my decoy and turned around. Right by that time, Mike tripped on that wire. And looked like a combination of a professional gymnast and Charlie Brown going down that deadgum bank head over heel. I mean, literally like doing handstands all the way down that bank. And he landed at the bottom on his feet and never broke stride. It's like he done it on purpose. He just continued to walk right out there and pick up those decoys. And I sat there just for a minute watching him. I started down the trail very careful this time not to trip on that barbed wire. After seeing that, it'd have killed me. He's tough as woodpecker lips he was. And as we come up, I just picked to say something to him, but I saw it, and he looked at it and said, I bet you can't do that. and walked back up. Never phased him. I don't know how it killed an ordinary man. And a couple of nights later, we were sitting at camp, coming into our last day, and JJ come in and said, man, I have got a duck hole, a little stock tank, just absolutely black with ducks. Black with them, but they're all shovelers. And without missing the beat, Mike said, that ain't no problem. I said, no, ain't no problem. We'll go do that. When we got out there that morning, it was me and JJ and Mike, a couple other boys, and Dakota Stowers, who was working for JJ at the time, now runs his own outfit out there. And I believe we shot 6 limits of ducks, and only one was not a shoveler. And we had so much fun cutting up and coming up with funny names and funny quotes and everything else. But after the hunt, we laid out all that pile of shovelers on the side of a blue cattle trailer. And Mike and I stood with it and sent a picture, and he texted it to you. Or I texted it to you. I can't remember which. And we got the text back that was the last time you was going to let us hunt together without adult supervision.
I remember that.
And I said, Mike, is he kidding? He goes, I don't know, but he better send an adult unless he wants to see 4 shovelers.
Well, your kids go off and screw up. You can't let them go again without some kind of adult supervision.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the funnest, most memorable hunts I ever hunted with. And I think we got years of mileage out of that, because I might go days or weeks or months without seeing Mike after that hunt, but building on that momentum of all those little shoveler quotes, he had this idea of he just built this massive list of little shoveler quotes, and we had a long time. He was my fellow shoveler killer, I'll tell you that, man. We sure had a good time with it. And Mike Spooney's list, it just tons of T-shirt. I think he had envisioned he was going to do a T-shirt series with all these little Spooney quotes on it. And but what a great guy he was, Terry. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm gonna miss him a lot.
I know y'all our last show of the quarter is going to be a tribute to Mike, and I think they probably interviewed you for that, did they not?
They did. Yeah, that's kind of what had him on my mind this morning. Is when I was going to talk to you, it's just what a great guy, man. The world, and the outdoor world is got some big shoes to fill with Mike Morgan. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, you probably heard me say this. It is service, but you in business, you have to address all kinds of things. And even though Mike passing was a huge personal loss to me and to you, still got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do about business? And so first thing I concluded was that look, we don't have Mike. We just got this huge void in our business. I'm getting past the personal part of it now. I said, how are we going to fill that void? Because he did a lot of things for us.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to find somebody that's been around enough years that can do all those things for you. So my conclusion was, in the end, that there's some voids you just can't fill, and Mike Morgan was such a void, and so we just have to go on, and we just won't be able to do or accomplish some of the things that we did when we had Mike.
Now, what a lot of people, I just just in this conversation, what a lot of people probably learned is Mike was an archer. Well before he got into the outdoor world, that people recognized him as a duck hunter. He was a world-class stick and string archer. He was a business guy. He was an entrepreneur. He was a pioneer in the outdoor TV world. He was a big influence in my life personally. Notwithstanding the fact he introduced me to you, who has also been a big influence, Terry. But at the end of the day, I guess what I like most about Mike, and how I just talking to people that knew him, is at the end of the day, he was just Mike. He was just Mike.
Always the same, never different.
And that's
I traveled with him for years under adverse conditions. Never heard him complain once, not once.
Never heard him say a cross word about anybody or anything or the weather. He was just, and he was a hunter. I mean, he hunted anything, ducks, and but ducks were his passion, and I'm sure I'm gonna miss him, Terry. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yes, sir. It'll be a different going forward, but I guess that's just part of life. There's nothing we can do, but we sure have a lot of video footage of him and a lot of memories, and I was telling his wife, I said, I doubt there's very many people in Hollywood that has nearly as much video footage as Mike does. I'm talking about the big-time stars of the past, because, they'd make a couple of movies a year for, 10 or 15 years, Mike's got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of video footage.
Thousands. That's good. Terry, where are we going next? That's the big question. When I got back from Azerbaijan 2 months ago, and called you, that was the plan. We were going to Argentina this year. We're going to go next year together.
Absolutely. We can't miss that. That's a must. We got to do that. And I don't know where else, but I'm open, because once we take a year like 2020, where we don't get to do a lot of the things that we always do, we typically do, then kind of puts you in the makeup mode. Let's go make up for some of this time that we didn't get to do what we like to do. And so certainly we're going to Argentina. I don't think there's any question about that. And wherever else you can cook up, you the cooker, you the hunt cooker upper. So wherever else you can cook up, let's go do it.
All right, we're going to. Folks, I appreciate y'all listening. Terry, I appreciate your time. I
Glad to be here, man.
I always enjoy meeting with you. But, folks, I appreciate y'all listening. Y'all can keep up with Mr. Denmon and the World Traveling of Mojo on their social media. They've got a heck of a social media presence. You can check us out at Ramsey Russell Get Ducks, and I'll see you next time.
Duck Season Somewhere is produced by Ben Page. Original soundtrack by our friend Cody Huggins.